John chapter 10, verse 31. The Jews picked up stones again to stone him. The previous part ended with Jesus saying, "No one can snatch me. Can snatch you out of his sheep out of his hand." And then he said, "And the Father is greater than all, and no one can snatch you out of the Father's hand." And then he ended with saying, "I and the Father are one." And the Jews clearly interpret this as this is blasphemy, right? This is why their reaction is like this in verse 31. They wanted to pick up stones to stone him, right? So here are, we can see these walls here centuries ago. I think these ones were built by either the Portuguese or the Dutch, right? They used stones to build. You can see the stones, but now clearly these are big stones, although you get a few smaller ones as well here and there. So understandably it would have been smaller stones because not a lot of people can throw a stone, and even a stone like, except if you stand above the guy and let it drop on his head kind of idea, right? But yeah, it would have been smaller stones. One of my uncles was actually kind of stoned like this in South Africa, and then he in a coma, and he died the next day. Right, so yeah, this is what they tried to do. They tried to stone him because they understood he's speaking about his blasphemy, right? Verse 32, Jesus answered them, "I've shown you many good works from the Father. For which of them are you going to stone me?" Right, so they're like, I've shown you lots of good works, right? Good works, and from the Father, not from me, from the Father. So for which of these works are you going to stone me? Which of these actually is now going to be the one that you're going to use as an excuse to... So ultimately it's not for the works, he knows it. It is because he's calling himself and the Father one. Right? He's calling himself God, so blasphemy, right, ultimately. But he can all, because he said that those works prove that what he's saying is true. So if the works prove that what he's saying is true, then actually that is why I ask him, so for which work? Because the work shows that his words are true. So to then disprove what he's saying, they need to disprove the works. So for which of those works then? Right? So he's getting, right, like unlike Christians and so many other people, he is using his logical reasoning to get to what is actually this thing that they're saying by them trying to stone him. Actually it is because, and ultimately it's because of the works. Right, so for which one of those? No, if they were Baptists, they would say, "Oh, because you turn water into wine." Okay, just a low joke, you know, below the belt kind of joke. I mean, yeah, I know, don't worry. I'm not against Baptists. I have lots of Baptists, Reformed Baptists that's helping me in my teaching, so nothing against them. It's just they're like the weak points. So. Right, but I speak out against all. Verse 33, the Jews answered him, "It's not for a good work that we're going to stone you, but for blasphemy, because you being a man, make yourself God." Okay, so the answer is, "Oh, Jesus, but just wait, this is not for good works, this is because you call yourself God." Okay, now I already proved to you that they are now like people say you can lose your salvation, right? Because you can get out of the hand. And I explained that if you follow this logic through to the end, you will get to the result that means you are no one, because you can then snatch yourself out of God's hand, and that is impossible. Okay, so I explained to you. But Christians, we like to think up to a point, and then the rest we say abracadabra, right? Hocus pocus. Actually, that is where this whole hocus pocus comes from, because that is what the priest uses, the Roman Catholic priest, when Jesus' body turned into, according to them, real flesh and real blood. Okay, so at least as it was told to me, right? And hocus est kind of idea, right? And so if you would think through the end of what you are saying and not come in with some hocus pocus kind of idea, right? And say here something happened and now the circle turned into a square, then you'll understand what Jesus was saying. He was trying to get them that they would think through what they're saying. So I'm trying to get through to you, to what you're thinking. So ultimately, as I've proven already a little bit a few minutes ago, is that it is the work. If they didn't say that what Jesus is saying is wrong, it is because the works pointing towards what he's saying is correct. So therefore the works must be wrong. And so they then say, they go to the first step, not the final conclusion where it's going. So Jesus tried to get them, but as always, they don't want to get to the final conclusion, actually, to think through everything. Because then, they need to admit that actually they against the works, they're saying the works that is wrong. Okay, so how is Jesus going to answer this question? Well, in the fact that it's blasphemy, they understood that everybody, sorry Muslims, sorry Jehovah's Witnesses, sorry everybody, one knows Pentecostal, sorry so many of you, but I'm actually not sorry. The fact of the matter is, you can't be right. Because the Jews here, the leadership, the Pharisees, they would have understood this the best. Not the Jehovah's Witnesses 2,000 years later, okay, 1,900 years later, 1,850 years later. Not the Muslims 400 years later. The Jews themselves there and then would have understood things the best. Okay, so how did they understand this? Not that Jesus is just a prophet, calling himself a prophet, or an angel, but that he called himself God. They understood it, and they would have understood it best. So, you kind of go back to the original guys hearing this and how they would have understood this. And because that was the intent for Jesus, that this is not how Jehovah's Witnesses years later will understand, not how Muslims later on will understand, not Buddhists or everybody wants to understand this, but how these guys would understand this. Okay? Yeah, blasphemy, and that is how they understood it. Jesus, oh no, you're wrong. I'm not trying to say this. His answer is going to be strange in a certain sense, as if kind of he's denying it. But no, this is not what he's doing. Okay, he's not saying, oh no, sorry, you got me all wrong here. This is not like, let me explain again that the works from the Father is kind of, and this is not what I'm saying. You are misunderstanding me. I'm not making, no, he didn't do that. He said it plain that the Father and I, in verse 30, I and the Father one. Now, no one has claimed that. Absolutely no one.